Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Nadia Massi, in for Georgia Calvin-Smith this Friday. Here's a look at what's coming up. More than 100,000 people displaced in the DRC in just 10 days. This amid a new offensive by the M23 rebel group. The United Nations accusing neighbouring Rwanda of deploying thousands of soldiers to aid M23. A severe drought in Zimbabwe linked to the deaths of at least 19 hippos. The animals had travelled over 10 kilometres from their natural habitat in search of food. At a celebration of Vodun culture in Benin, we will get a glimpse of the sights and sounds of the festival and hear about efforts to fight misconceptions about the religion. First, though, a stark new figure from the United Nations. More than 100,000 people have been displaced in eastern DR Congo since the start of this year. This amid a fresh offensive by the rebel group M23. They are among some 2.8 million forced from their homes in the province of North Kivu alone, a crisis that experts have described as one of the world's largest humanitarian challenges. M23 is a well-armed rebel group, and Kinshasa has long accused neighbouring Rwanda of funding the fighters. Now, in its latest report, the United Nations says thousands of Rwandan soldiers have been deployed to bolster the group as well. Here's more from our correspondent in Kigali, Clement de Roma.
A United Nations expert report released this week on the DR Congo conflict alleges that Rwanda has deployed between 3,000 and 4,000 soldiers to support the M23 rebel group. The militia seized control of another key town in North Kivu last weekend and continues to clash with the Congolese army and its allies, forcing the displacement of around 100,000 people. In a press conference this Thursday, President Paul Kagame did not directly address the UN's allegations about Rwanda's military involvement, but he said that M23 was only a Congolese issue. He also skipped a December meeting with Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi, which was subsequently cancelled. Kagame criticized these negotiations, describing them as photo opportunities that failed to address the underlying issues. Reiterating his stance, Kagame emphasized Rwanda's need to counter the FDLR, a militia of former genocides based in DR Congo, and stated his commitment to defending Rwanda's territorial integrity at all costs.
Clement de Roma reporting for us there. Next, to a look at the ongoing fallout from the disputed election in Mozambique 3 months ago. The latest violence was on Thursday of this week when the opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, returned from self-imposed exile, claiming once again that he had won the vote. As his supporters gathered, police fired tear gas and one person was shot and killed. Indeed, since October, more than 250 people have been killed by security forces, and that has forced thousands of Mozambicans to flee across the border into Malawi. Their conditions in refugee camps are tough, as France 24's Clémence Voller now reports.
At the Tengani temporary refugee camp in Malawi, thousands of Mozambicans find themselves in limbo. They say the post-election violence gripping their homeland since October 11th has given them no choice but to flee for safety. However, life in the camp is difficult, with few basic necessities available.
We arrived here hungry and exhausted. Sadly, there is acute shortage of food. The children are only getting a little porridge.
Since I came here, I have been sleeping on an empty stomach. We only had 2 scoops of maize flour.
According to Malawi officials, 13,000 Mozambicans crossed into the country over the past several weeks, with more expected to come. Many walked long distances and crossed the Shire River on foot or by small boats. While the UN has provided tents, blankets and hygiene kits, the camp authorities say the lack of resources and proper infrastructure remain the biggest challenges.
This place is slowly becoming a breeding ground for cholera and other waterborne diseases. The main problem, besides food, is that the camp has no toilets.
Malawi's Department of Refugees said it aims to eventually relocate the displaced people living in Tengani to another camp which they say has better resources.
Already some tents have been pitched there with support from UNHCR and also Malawi Red Cross and other partners. However, the biggest challenge we have noted on the site is access to water. We're trying to look at measures on how we can ensure that water is provided to the site before we move everyone to the
For the past 2 months, Mozambique has been in the grips of consistent violence, which resulted in the deaths of more than 250 people. The latest clashes broke out on Thursday, with the return of the main opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, to Maputo.
Now, Nigeria is currently the 4th largest economy in Africa, but an unusual decision by the National Statistics Agency there could show the country's gross domestic product is bigger than current estimates. Illegal activities, including drug peddling, have been included in Nigeria's GDP calculation for the first time. With a look at why the agency has taken that decision and what impact it may now have, here's our correspondent, Chinwe Asundo, reporting for us from Lagos.
The National Bureau of Statistics has said that illegal and hidden activities like drug peddling have been included in the recent calculation of Nigeria's gross domestic product. The addition of illegal activity is in line with the national best practices recommended by the System of National Accounts 2008. According to Dr. Madu of the National Statistics Bureau, the data will be captured under domestic production and trade for those consignments seized by law enforcement body. Data for sex work generally is unavailable as the different attempts of survey yielded no fruits. Dr. Baba further explained that the data for both activities, however, remain insignificant as the activities are not legally backed in Nigeria. For some economists, such as Dr. Fetinyoa of the Nigerian Economic Summit, the strategy could be a good thing as it will paint a clearer picture of the different sources of income and could influence policy making and regulation. The Bureau of Statistics will consider 2019 as their base year, adding new segments to be considered, such as digital economy, health and social insurance, pension, just to name a few. Nigeria till 2022 remained top of Africa's economy and dropped to 4th thereafter.
Now, 19 hippos have died in Zimbabwe in the past 3 months, most likely due to a lack of adequate food. The country's wildlife authority has confirmed the authenticity of these photographs and noted the link with a severe drought in Zimbabwe over the past few months now. With more details for us from the capital, Harare, here's our correspondent, Sharon Mazingezu.
Investigations by Zimpax, the Wildlife Authority, said lack of adequate food is responsible for the death of 19 hippopotamus over the past 3 months. The hippos had traveled over 10 kilometers from their natural habitat in search of food. Because of drought, natural waterholes are drying up and wild animals are forced to travel long distance in search of water and food. The Wildlife Authority said samples from the dead animals showed no abnormalities and no traces of anthrax poisoning. The Middle Zambezi hippo population is in decline due to drought and human activities. The Wildlife Authority said 50% of the hippo population in the area is in very poor condition, with visible signs of pelvic bones, spines, a sign of poor malnutrition.
Now, finally from us, a festival celebrating voodoo culture in Benin. For the second year in a row, the city of Ouidah has this week played host to the Vodun Days, a celebration of the region's long spiritual traditions, complete with singing, dancing and plenty to drink. Here's a little then of the sights and the sounds of the festival. Well, our correspondent Lilaafa Amouzou was at the festival and she's been finding out about efforts to dismantle cliches about the religion.
We are live from the sacred forest of Passé in Ouidah for the opening of the Vodun Days, a festival that showcases Benin's incredible cultural and spiritual heritage. This tradition has left its mark across the Americas, from Haiti to Brazil and Cuba. But imported religions have long demonized these traditional and cultural practices. And with us this morning, Professor Thomas Wessou-Adam, a leading specialist in African studies and traditions. Professor, what are the most common misconceptions you encounter about Vodou?
The three misconceptions that people will talk about as far as Vodou is concerned is that Vodou is diabolic, Vodou is heathenism, Vodou is sorcery. All these are completely wrong. The Vodou, as Vodou goes, could be considered as a religion and also the deities. Vodou are the deities because we can talk about Vodou Sakpata, Vodou Hevioso, Vodou Shango, etc., who are there to serve as intermediaries between the human beings and the supernatural power, the Almighty God, in Fongbe Mahulisa.
How do you think this festival helps visitors, local and international, truly understand Vodou?
Very, very significantly. And as a matter of fact, this festival has a lot of dimensions. First of all, it meant to educate people better about that religion. Those who are outside, they will not be scared anymore. Not talking about the Vodou, even just hearing the word alone is enough for people to be scared away. That's when can happen. It will attract a lot of people to come and participate in our festivals, and also it has an economic dimension because through tourism, people will not just come and be walking around, breathing fresh air and nothing. They could buy artworks, people will be prepared accordingly with probably enough money to come and buy certain things and understand the artifacts of the Vodou, and they will not be scared anymore. You can go to anybody's living room in America and find the artworks of the Vodou without being scared. Yes, so that will have a very significant impact on the development of the country, which is already on the way.
Professor Wessou-Adam, thank you for joining us.
Anytime. It was my pleasure working with you.
The changing perceptions are already having an impact. Benin is now among the top 25 global travel destinations, according to a Far magazine, a sign that these cultural narratives are already shifting.
Well, that reporter from our team in Benin brings us to the end of this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us here on France 24.